right, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Culper's Canteen Cup. Today, we're honored to have the Cajun conservative, Isaac, on, coming out from south of I-10, Louisiana, and down in, what do we call it, Arcadia?
Acadiana.
Acadiana. So that's not northern Louisiana. It's not the, so we're not talking, the Duck Commander. We're not talking, we're not talking the woods. We're talking the bayous and the swamps. We have a real good friend that lives down there in Lafayette, Leaf. So Leaf, if you're listening, you need to get on Isaac's podcast and check him out. So, hey Isaac, turn it over to you, man. Just give us a little background on yourself and all the irons you got in the fire.
Well, I got a lot of irons in the fire. I'm a father of 3, been married for 7 years. God has blessed me with a tremendous family. Work for my dad as a dump truck driver. That's my full-time job. My part-time gigs, you could say, is preaching the gospel and doing podcasts. I got 2 podcasts. Got the Cajun Conservative and Brothers Just Searching. As you can tell, the Cajun Conservative is a political podcast dedicated to talk about issues of the day. And I go ahead and I put scripture and involved with it. Do a little different than a lot of conservative talk show hosts. And Brothers Just Searching is strictly biblical. Like right now, we're in the middle of a series talking about Daniel chapter 2 with the statue that Nebuchadnezzar saw. We're breaking it down. We're in the middle of the Roman Empire. 400 years of history, trying to cram that in 1 hour. It was impossible. We're doing multiple episodes from Rome. So it's real biblical. We go ahead and just look into the Bible and things that matter to the Bible today. We tackle tough issues, certain denominations or certain preachers that are preaching false. That's Brother Just Searching. You can find both those podcasts on Apple, Google, Spotify. Brother Just Searching is on YouTube now. We drop a new episode every Wednesday morning at 9 o'clock on YouTube. And we're working on trying to get the Cajun Conservative on there. And I'm a youth minister at our church. I preach the gospel. We have a youth event on Saturday where we're getting all the kids together for a pool party, but I'm ministering at 6 o'clock there. And I'm also the sound guy at the church, so I'm pretty busy.
You are busy, man. You have a lot of irons in the fire.
And look, a lot of people ask me, why you stay so busy? Well, first off, it gets me out of trouble. But this is more than just a hobby. This is a calling on my life, and I feel this is where God has called me to do, and that's what I'm going to do until He tells me to stop.
Yeah, no, that's good. And that calling is special because when being prior military, move around a lot, and you're always looking for a new church wherever you go. And we found one that the pastor was there was something off. He was a really nice guy. There was but there was something off there. When you go to a new church and you're just like, I'm not feeling it. And one of the other guys he's a really nice guy, but he hasn't been called to do it. He hasn't been called to do it, and you could definitely tell. And so, yeah, man, that calling is key. So, what's going on down in Louisiana with COVID? You guys just got a statewide mask mandate now. I thought I saw in there. What's John Bel Edwards doing down there?
We don't call him John Bell down here. I call him Dumbbell. But John Bell has issued a mask mandate for us guys, and if you listen to the Cajun Conservative, I already said I'm not wearing a mask. I do sometime out of respect. If it's a funeral or a church service that go, hey, can you wear it out of respect? I understand that, but he issued that a while back. He put it for about a month, and a lot of Louisiana people are not happy with it. I'm part of groups on Facebook where I deal with a lot of Louisiana people. And just some of them, you see that they don't want it. And we do have high numbers here. But listen to a local news affiliate here in Louisiana, a conservative by the name of Moon Griffon, went ahead and said the other day that John Bel Edwards is manipulating the numbers. He's not putting cases. He's putting probable cases. So we have so many cases. He said, well, let's go ahead and add this number just in case people got COVID that's not been getting tested or have not been, haven't went to the hospital yet. So, like, prime example, I've had 3 kids. The doctor never came and told my wife, well, I think you're pregnant. after doing the test. Because there's some people around here that I know personally that went to the doctor, tested negative. The doctor looked at him and said, "Well, you test negative. We don't know if you have COVID, but you have all the symptoms, so we're going to label you as COVID." That's a probable case. If the test comes back negative, you're negative. But John Bell's putting them numbers. I think a lot of our numbers are inflated. John Bel Edwards loves federal money. Every time he gets a new COVID case, that's more money coming in from the federal government to do research and the testing and all that. And John Bel Edwards is not moderate, as a lot of people think. He is straight up liberal. He calls himself, he's pro-life. He calls himself pro-gun, but shot down multiple gun bills that he could have signed, and he just let it go. He passed an abortion bill, but did not let us vote, because if you do we do amendments when we vote them in. And Louisiana politics is weird. I don't know how they came up with these voting systems that we have, but every time they pass an amendment to the Louisiana Constitution, we have to vote on it. John Bel was running for governor and knew the abortion bill would come out with a big number for the election. Went ahead and said, no, we're not going to put it this year in the gubernatorial race, because the gubernatorial race is very important. We're going to put it on next year. The bill passed, but then he comes out and says, well, look, I can't really enforce the bill because we got to see what happens in Mississippi's Supreme Court bill before we do anything. So he covered all his tracks, because they always ask him, are you pro-life? But they never ask him, do you believe that the woman has the right to choose to abort or to save the baby's life? They never ask that. The woman's right to choose. They never asked him that question.
So on that, what are some of the gun bills? What are some of the gun bills that John Bel Edwards has vetoed? Because I think it was Louisiana or Mississippi was trying for a constitutional carry.
Well, Mississippi passed theirs, I believe. Governor Edwards vetoed our constitutional bill. Our bill is right now, you can open carry. And with open carrying, if you don't conceal it, you don't hide your weapon, you're free. You can walk around wherever you want, whenever you want, and you can show your firearm. If you put a jacket over, your shirt over your gun, you're right then and there. If you don't have a concealed weapons license, you're a felon. That's how they treat it here.
Right.
So what Louisiana wanted to do was, hey, let's eliminate that. We'll keep the concealed carry classes. If people want to take them right now, I think it's $150 for a class. So they're charging an arm and a leg for these classes, because a lot of people in Louisiana want to conceal carry. Well, John Bel Edwards was making it that would be like the Wild West with Wyatt Earp and Wild Bill Hickok, where we're going to go out on the street and shoot everybody up because we didn't take this class, as he says. Our weak-kneed Republicans bended to that, because one of them said, hey, I'm not going to go ahead and go because I had a knee injury. That was Ronnie John. And Ronnie John, 3 days later, got a promotion to gaming commissioner, which John Bel Edwards appointed him, but he didn't go because of that. And that was one vote shy of overriding John Bel Edwards. So as I said earlier, John Bel Edwards says, hey, I'm a conservative, I'm a moderate, I believe in gun rights. If he believed in gun rights, he would have passed this bill, but he didn't want to go against the establishment and Joe Biden. As for John Bel Edwards letting felons serve on jury duty, and I'm against it. But Luke, if you think about it, he's just falling in line with the Democrat establishment. Joe Biden's for that. Nancy Pelosi's for that. Chuck Schumer's for that. And that proves, because John Bel Edwards ran on the coattails of saying, I am a moderate. I'm not like these other guys that want all this, but he's in his last term. See, we're not like New York and other states where a governor can keep on running and running and running. You got 2 terms to run. Now, after you 2 terms, you have to sit out a while, then you can come back and run again, but you have a 2-term. They don't believe he's going to try to run for governor after this time. I think he's looking for a position in the Biden White House, or the Kamala Harris White House, or the next Democrat candidate, because he don't want to be here no more. He already reached the heights that he needed to, and he has destroyed this state so much. He wants to go ahead and fix roads because he believes that's why people are leaving Louisiana. People are not leaving Louisiana because of roads. You never hear somebody that's making a $6-figure check say, "Oh, I'm leaving that state because of bad roads." No, they'll suffer the bad roads collecting that check. And John Bel Edwards is just falling on a long line with the Democrat Party, and it is sad because I tell people we are considered a red state. The constituents in this state, like I said, 66% of Louisiana voted for Donald Trump. Yes, that's a red state, but our politicians, even our Republicans or rhinos and Democrats, we're a purple state because they go more in line with the left than they do with their constituents.
Yeah, and it's funny that you mentioned that, because I was looking at the 2020 presidential election where Donald Trump got over 1.2 million votes and Biden got 800,000 votes. Predominantly a red state. So how in the hell did you end up with John Bel Edwards as a Democratic governor? How does that happen down there?
New Orleans, Louisiana. That's one. We have a couple of issues why John Bel Edwards got in there. Like I said, first off, New Orleans, Louisiana. If you go look at the numbers of the last gubernatorial election with Eddie Rispone and John Bel Edwards got 98% of the vote in New Orleans. Now, like every other state, especially like California, San Francisco, Los Angeles, and Oakland and all them big cities take over California's vote. Majority of California is red as well. A lot of people don't know that, but the big cities overpopulate the conservative red voters. The first time, and also John Bel gets a lot of help from our weak-kneed, spineless Republicans. I mentioned Ronnie John. There's a guy named Scott Angel. Scott Angel in my parish here, because we don't have counties, we have parishes, was our parish president. And he's originally from my hometown. But Scott Angel ran for governor. Him and Jay Darden, who Jay Darden went work for John Bel Edwards, was running against him. And this is how our election system works. In November, we go ahead and have an open voting system or open primary where all the candidates run at the same time. If a candidate doesn't get over 50% of the vote, 50% plus one, we go into a runoff. The top two competitors go at each other. The first time John Bel got in there, it was got into the runoff with David Vitter. David Vitter was a great senator for the great state of Louisiana. We all loved Senator Vitter. And we thought for sure Senator Vitter will beat John Bel Edwards. But because Scott Angel and Jay Darden was upset by losing that election, they went ahead and said, hey, we don't think David Vitter should be governor because he committed fornication on his wife. Now, we're a heavy Catholic community here, so a lot of people are like, oh, no, we can't have a fornicator in the governor's mansion. So Scott Angel and Jay Darden told their followers, hey, vote for John Bel Edwards. John Bel Edwards won in a landslide in the runoff. The next time, we had Ralph Abraham running against John Bel Edwards. Ralph Abraham said, I'm not going to attack no Republicans. I'm going to do this fairly. I'm going to go on my constitution. Ralph Abraham was a good congressman. He would have made a great governor of the state of Louisiana. Eddie Rispone said made the same promise. I'm not going to attack the other Republican. It caused problems. Well, Eddie Rispone and Ralph Abraham in the general election was running a tight race. I was one that didn't know who I was going to vote for, Eddie Rispone or Ralph Abraham. Well, Ralph Abraham was winning comfortably in the polls. Eddie Rispone said, I have to do something, so he went ahead and lied about Ralph Abraham. When he did that, he got into the runoff election with John Bel Edwards. John Bel Edwards was happy because the Republicans were fighting him. Bad part is, Ralph Abraham's from the Monroe area up north right by Shreveport. If you look at the center of the map of Louisiana, one district goes for Shreveport, the other one goes for Monroe. Monroe area is very conservative. That's where the duck commanders come from and all. Well, they got mad because Eddie Rispone lied about Ralph Abraham. They said, well, we're not going to bite the bullet this time. We're not going to vote for... They either went vote for John Bel Edwards or they didn't go vote. John Bel Edwards only won the votes in Louisiana, I think, by like 40,000 votes. You know how many votes were missing in those in the Monroe area? About 40,000. So Edwards has backed up. Look, Edwards goes ahead and eats us for breakfast and poops us out for lunch for the Republican Party here in Louisiana. It's sad. He beats us up all the time.
So whatever happened to Bobby Jindal? So the last thing years ago, I think he came out and he gave the rebuttal to like the State of the Union address or something like that. That was like the last thing I remember of him. I did get a chance to see him out at Greenbrier. He was out there doing a private fundraiser, and this was years ago. And then that dude just fell off the face of the earth. I mean, is he still around? Is he still involved in Louisiana politics, or where's he at?
The Republican Party of Louisiana don't like Bobby Jindal. Well, I say that when he was in office, they loved him, but Bobby Jindal went ahead and put us so much into a hole that it was impossible to get out. That's one reason why John Bel got in there the first time as well. He said, "Look, Bobby Jindal put us in deficit." His famous lie is that we was at a $2 billion deficit, which wasn't true. Bobby Jindal didn't leave us. He left us in a deficit, but not as much as that. John Bel Edwards ran on that coattail. That's one reason why people, we're not going to trust a Republican because he put us in a debt. Last time I heard, it was the presidential race, I think in maybe 2016, I want to say. It was something around there when he ran. And when he was questioned about that through the moderators at a debate, he couldn't answer because it was like, look, you left your state in this certain debt. You've done this. He used one-time money. True conservatives didn't like Bobby Jindal. We voted for him. Well, I didn't vote for him. I think I was too young for the first time. And Bobby Jindal he hurt our state so much that he's a distant memory. He hasn't run for no office. He hasn't done anything. If he was doing a fundraiser, 9 out of 10, he's a lobbyist. That's all I could see. I don't even know if he lives in this state no more. He went under the radar.
So as far as like the next election, your next governor, do you see that going back to being a Republican governor, or do you think it tends to stay Democrat, or maybe goes moderate Democrat, moderate Republican?
That's hard to say, Roger, because as I said, Louisiana politics is real different than a lot of people. We have these they call them open primaries for a general election. I really wish our Republican legislators in this state would get some brains and say, listen, let's do this. Let's do a closed primary. Because if we do a closed primary, you wouldn't have a Bill Cassidy. Bill Cassidy would have got beat in the primary last if they would have had a primary. The only reason he won, he had the most money. He had the LA GOP's support, which they gave him money. And everybody else, they had one good conservative, but he was so low. I think he only got maybe like 300, 400 some votes out of the whole state. It was a very low number. But we don't have open primaries. And if the Republicans do what they did last time, with Jay Darden and Scott Angel attacking Vitter and Eddie Risponi attacking Ralph Abraham, we're never going to have a Republican governor. See, a while back, and the reason they did it, when Republicans first took over this state, they did an open primary because you had all kind of Democrats. You would have maybe one Republican running against 10 Democrats, so it would benefit us. I never seen a state that has the majority, and all they're doing is bowing down to the governor that's a Democrat. If they would close the primaries now, that would help so much Louisiana and the Republican Party. But unfortunately, our politicians, they don't know what they're doing. They're either rhinos or they're weak-kneed, spineless. So, and for the governor's race, I'm going to tell you right now, I hope it's Jeff Landry, our Attorney General. If Jeff Landry gets in there, he would turn the state around. But if they're already attacking him. The Daily Advertiser and the Advocate here in the local newspapers are already attacking Jeff Landry, and we're still a year away from our gubernatorial election.
I gotta ask: is Jeff Landry related to Troy Landry from Swamp People?
I don't believe so. That's two different parages.
Okay. I'd ask. I had to ask.
Then again,
hey,
Josh. Louisiana, you can be across the state. Somebody can be in Monroe and somebody be in my part. We meet in the middle and somehow we start talking about families. And oh, that was my Uncle George. Really? Well, that's and we're related somewhere or another. So.
Hey, so we were joking earlier about the rain you guys are getting and building an ark, but you're going to have to build a P-row for because of wood prices and stuff. Rogers and I and Luke, we've talked about it a couple times. The inflation. Are you guys seeing it down there? Or are you guys seeing prices of just basic goods going up substantially?
Well, gas prices has gone up. That's for sure. This time last year, we was only paying maybe $1.25 a gallon. We're paying almost close to $2.50, $3 a gallon now, and we get a break in most of the states because we're in the Gulf. We have drilling right well, we used to before Biden gets in there, behind our back door, so we would get the oil pretty cheap. But gas has gone up. We feel the effect on that. Last time my wife checked, my wife does all the shopping. I don't have time to go shopping. So she tells me all the time, she goes, Isaac, it's getting ridiculous. Milk is going up. Bread is going up. So yeah, we have felt the effects of inflation here, and we all know why that is. It's because of Biden's policies. Biden's acting like the economy's good, but in reality, Biden is hurting our economy. First off, the Keystone Pipeline, that affected Louisiana tremendously. If that pipeline would have went through, we would have had tons of, I think we would have had 100 and some thousand jobs just in Louisiana, because all our shops we have machine shops that build for Halliburton, all them big oil field companies. They all go through Louisiana, majority of them. And when that Keystone Pipeline, I had friends that were getting ready to work on that, and they just shut them down. 6-figure jobs, they sent them home. Look, we can't use y'all.
Yeah. I know a couple buddies who worked out in the oil fields, and were having they lost some jobs because of that. And there's a couple other buddies that are pipe fitters. And once the Keystone Pipeline got killed by Biden, they were out of a job. So on that, kind of what's the talk in your area, kind of in your congregation, so to speak, on obviously there's some folks in Louisiana that voted blue. Are those folks your parts, or are people generally unhappy with the state of current affairs? Not only with Biden, but with the rest of Congress and folks.
Well, our congressional district, most of our congressional leaders that we have, Clay Higgins, Julie Letlow, and a few other ones that are there, they're mostly conservative. We're happy with majority of our congressional leaders. The only ones we're really not, like, I'm not happy with, is the representative from New Orleans. He's blue. But this is how the state works here, especially with a lot of left-leaning people here in the state. They don't like what's going on with abortion and other things, but for some odd reason they think it's all right for a lot of other things, like Biden's policies on the economy. And it's typical leftists is what they are. But they get mad when they go to the gas pump. I can't believe the gas prices are going up. Well, your president that you like in the economy, that's what it's doing. And we got some very, very stubborn individuals here in Louisiana. We're like a door. We're like a door, man. We just keep hitting it and hitting it and hitting it. And we don't stop running into the door majority of the time. But the people here, they don't like the high gas prices. And then there's some of them, they want it high because their jobs in the oil field, they make more money when the gas prices are up. And it just, like, I got a good friend that he's a leftist. He don't believe in abortion. He believes in gun rights and stuff. We agree majority on everything until we get to policies on taxes and stuff. And they don't like, let's say, like, they don't like the outcome of the high prices, but they agree with the policies that make them high prices. And it's pretty sad here in the state of Louisiana. Now, my area of around the area of Lafayette, Louisiana, and Crowley, and Abbeville, and all these places, majority of that's red. They can't stand the Biden administration. You get more left when you get towards Baton Rouge and New Orleans, Slidell, and stuff like that. That's when you start really seeing the left-leaning people. I went to Baton Rouge a while back, and I seen everybody with masks, and I wasn't wearing them, and I thought I was in a foreign country.
When you look at the Olympics, when you look at the athletes, and you say, why do we have all this kneeling and this and that with the anthem? Well, you know what? I can vaguely remember. I mean, look back 5, 6, 7, 10 years ago when they were taking the Pledge of Allegiance out of schools. I mean, it starts back there, right? And when you start talking about shows like Duck Dynasty, it goes to a bigger issue, which is we've really taken away discussion at home and at the dinner table, because there's no more dinner table. And everything is, we've talked about this on our podcast and YouTube before. They always say, oh, you don't discuss politics at the dinner table. And I completely disagree. That is the time to discuss politics. That's when you have those disagreements, because not that I'm sitting there trying to convert somebody or brainwash somebody or my kids or whatever, but it's like I want to hear their train of thought. They need to hear my train of thought. When you're stupid, it's like what you just said. It's like a lot of the left, the liberals out here, they vote for the policies but don't like the outcome. Hey, at that point, that's when it's time for me to step in and say, hey, you live in Louisiana. You know why you lost your job? Because you voted for Biden, who killed the Keystone Pipeline. That's a fact. And I think when you talk about Duck Dynasty and you look at like the Kardashians, which nobody relates to, right? Nobody relates to any of that stuff. But you talk about like the Duck Dynasties and those type shows, we do relate to those. 2 of the 3 of us on this podcast have an alcohol problem. So we relate to things that they have, and we have those discussions with the family. And I think a lot of that, when you take that away, because we've become this society of, it's just acceptance.
Yeah.
You just are what you are. And when you take that discussion away, that doesn't lead to a problem tomorrow. That leads to a problem 5-10 years down the road. Yeah. And I, believe it or not, I actually heard on NBC, which I hate to admit, but that's what they were saying. They're like, hey, when you talk about these athletes taking a knee, they're like, look at what we were doing 5 and 10 years ago, taking the Pledge of Allegiance out of the schools. So now you've had these kids grow up to learn that, hey, nationalism is bad. The Pledge of Allegiance is bad. The national anthem is bad. And they become athletes, and then you wonder why they're doing this, because that's the way they grew up. So I do think that there has been a culture war that's been going on, and we hear that a lot from Fox News. What I do believe, and I think we've been talking about this over the last several months, is, I am a believer in like the rubber band theory, where you go too far left, you go too far right, and you start to snap back to the center, right? And I think you're starting to see that now, where it's a lot of snapping back to the center. So I'm out here in Arizona, and we're very similar to Louisiana as far as our politics. We have a governor who's from the Republican Party. We have 2 Democratic senators. Mark Kelly, I don't even know where that dude is. Like, literally, that dude won the election and said, peace out, I'm not saying anything. He's just like taking it back. See, but Kyrsten Sinema is truly a moderate. And, it's sad because I would still never vote for her. I'd want the GOP candidate, which maybe that's a problem in itself. But it's like she is really pushing to the middle of the aisle. And so what I think is when you've seen this extreme push to the left by the Democratic Party and the squad, you start to see that even their own party starts to snap back to the center. It's like, you're a little too far left from me. You're a little too crazy. And the right does it as well, right? You get a little too far right. It's like, we kind of need to bring this back to the middle. So I guess as the next thing I want to talk about and get into is when we start talking about 2022 and 2024. I think at least to my surprise, I truly believe this was going to be a Kamala Harris administration. Like, I thought it was all a setup. Even Joe Biden was talking about, I'm going to use this term, transient or transitory president. He didn't use that term, but he just said Fed Powell can use that with inflation, because transitory, I guess, only means like a year now. So we'll just use that for him. But, he was saying, he's a transition president, right, to the next one. And I was thinking, wow, Kamala's really going to come in with her own agenda, and she's really going to be the one to run the White House. But now, as we see how incompetent as she is on everything, I don't think the left and the Democratic Party won't have anything to do with her. So I kind of want to get your feel for 2022, 2024, going into, the congressional elections, all the way up to the presidential election. Do you think you start to see a shift back to the right? Do you think we see us kind of pull together in the middle, or what's your thoughts on that?
Well, the first off on the senators, to be honest with you, I'll vote for Joe Manchin or the other one that you just said, not the guy that Sinema over Bill Cassidy, because at least you know where they stand. You don't know where Bill Cassidy stands at. Right. So on that, we have Bill Cassidy until 2026. Now John Kennedy, which y'all probably all know who John Kennedy is, he's always on Fox News with the references that it's amazing how he does these one-liners and everybody remembers who John Kennedy is. He's coming up for re-election, I think, in 2022. So that's a big election for us here. I honestly see that the Republican Party is going to get the House and Senate back, especially with this last infrastructure bill. Joe Manchin even said it. Look, there's problems in this bill. I voted the 1.2 on party lines, but the 3.5, he threw a wrench into Chucky Schumer's, as Rush Limbaugh used to call him, into his threw a wrench in his gears because he's saying I might not vote for this 3.5. They need all 50 votes plus Kamala Harris to go ahead and win this election. But Americans don't like spending all this money. Majority of Americans do not like this, and I think that's what the independents and the center Republicans, center Democrats are going to vote for the GOP. And so I see that is coming about. And on the 2024 election, guys, to be honest with you, I'm more focused on the 2022. I have this segment planned, and I never did it because y'all know, as into the podcast world, especially in politics, every time you plan a show, something happens where you got to take something out. And I remember one time it was I film and I go ahead and I record on Sundays. I had my whole show planned out. Sunday afternoon, sitting at church, looking a breaking news story coming. I said, I gotta talk about this. So, but anyway, so I have this whole segment planned out that because I'm seeing this all right now. Trump 2024. Now, I don't, if Trump runs 9 out of 10, if he becomes the candidate, I will go ahead and I'll vote for him. The problem with it is everybody, especially in this state, everybody's looking towards 2024. They got to remember, we got a 2022 election we got to get to first. Because, I hate to say it, if we don't win back the House and we don't win back the Senate for the Republican Party, there ain't going to be no 2024. Biden's going to go ahead and cram everything down the throat before his next election. But, Roger, I like your point where you're saying you thought it was Kamala Harris. I never thought Kamala Harris was running the show. She's a good puppet, but she ain't running the show. Right. Barack Obama went on CBS, John Leno, I think it was, and they asked him, "Do you miss the office? Would you going to give advice?" And he said that if I could sit in a basement in my pajamas and have a little microphone and have somebody with the implant in their ear, and I could tell them everything they're doing without anybody knowing, I would do it. Normally, when a leftist says something like that, he's doing that. It was confirmed a while back that Joe Biden talks to President Obama every day. Not weekly or monthly. Every day, Barack Obama's calling him and giving him advice. It's not advice. He's telling him, hey, do this, do this, do this. Kamala Harris and Joe Biden couldn't find a light switch in a dark room. It's sad to where our government's going, but Barack Obama's behind the scenes a lot of what's going on right now.
Yeah, and it's kind of, I think that, it takes us right back to COVID. They know everything is going bad. They know it. And so when you look at the Delta variant and COVID still being around, they keep it, at least in my belief, they keep it in the news because a lot of people still relate that to Trump and his presidency. And if we're talking about COVID and the Delta, and I'm sure I've heard your stuff, you've done it as well. We've been calling this stuff for months.
Yeah.
Hey man, school year gets ready to fire back up. Guess what? New COVID, because now you don't even hear it in international news. It's just purely domestic, unlike what it was last year. But I think, it's let's keep COVID in the news because people relate that to Trump. Let's not talk about inflation. Let's not talk about the economy. Let's not talk about the southern border. Let's not talk about, gas prices. Let's not talk about, all these things. Let's not talk about Afghanistan. I mean, it happened today, and by the time our listeners and viewers see this, will be a couple days old, but John Kirby was on there, the press secretary for the Pentagon, and on live TV, he was actually like, because they were asking about Afghanistan and like, hey, we're pulling out and the Taliban's taking over and are you coming back in and what are you doing? And it's like, you can tell he doesn't have the answers to this stuff. And it's no different than what's going on down at the southern border with the illegals. I think I never saw the final numbers, but they were talking about the numbers that were coming across. And Mayorkas was down there today giving a press conference. He's like, well, we've always had undocumented coming across. And they go higher and lower. And it's like, well, no, you're actually at a historic all-time high right now. There actually hasn't been any higher. And then you have Biden. I heard his speech yesterday with inflation and the new numbers today. So the producer price index came out up 7.8%, which is a record. The CPI was up 5.6%. And the spin on that, I remember when that number came out, it was within the hour, he came out and was putting the spin on, he never mentioned the 5.6%. He was like, hey, you know what? We had good numbers today because the increase this month was less than the increase from last month. So last month was like 5.8%. This month was 5.6. You can't say the actual numbers, so the way we're going to spin this is we'll say, well, you know what? You didn't bleed as much this month as you did last month. But, I still go back to Fed Powell, who said that, hey, man, this is all temporary and you actually don't see any of this stuff. So I guess my kind of goes, takes us back to the COVID thing. When you look at the state of Louisiana, I mean, do you see all the masks indoors? I mean, is that pretty much a mandate now? And do you see a big difference? I know you said you saw it like Baton Rouge, but how about the rest of Louisiana as you get out and about? Is there a lot of pushback? Because I love what Rand Paul is doing right now. I think he's been taken off YouTube for a while, but I saw a couple of his videos on Rumble, and I'm waiting for them to bring him up on like treason charges or something, because he's like, don't comply. He's like, don't comply. And I will tell you this, I'll leave this for you. And the guys, I tell you, I like asking a question and going like a 5-minute monologue and then turning it back over to you. But Josh actually posted something that was worthwhile this morning, which happens every now and then. Masks are really for infected people to prevent them from spreading infection to people who are not infected, rather than protecting uninfected people from acquiring infection. The typical mask you buy in the drugstore is not really effective in keeping out the virus, which is small enough to pass through material. It might, however, provide some slight benefit in keeping out gross droplets if someone coughs or sneezes on you. That was said by Dr. Fauci last year. That was said when he came out at the same time that Dr. Barba and Nancy Pelosi all came and said, hey, you need to be out. You need to, it was the Chinese New Year, and you need to congregate and this and that. Are you starting to see a lot of pushback from the people, especially like where you're at? And do you see a difference throughout the state of Louisiana where they're like, hey, man, we're kind of done with this. We've either been vaccinated, we've already had COVID, or I'm just fairly healthy and not high risk?
I'm seeing more pushback than anything, Roger, to be honest with you. The first time it happened with the mask mandates and everything like that, we complied. I even wore a mask because we didn't know what the virus would do. We didn't know what was going on. We didn't have no information on it. Like you said, you had Fauci at first saying, hey, don't wear a mask. Now he's telling us to wear a whole box of masks, maybe 2, to protect yourself. So you really don't know. And our governor does the same thing. Our governor will go ahead and go in there and say, well, we had a high number today, but he's inflating the numbers. So there's a lot of people that are looking at John Bel Edwards and saying that's why we nicknamed him Dumbbell. He's like, you're telling us one thing, but we're seeing something totally different. And this time around, a lot of people say, look, we're not going to wear a mask. Especially they don't trust John Bel or the government because supposedly you took this vaccination. You were good. Hey, you're fine. You're not going to get the Delta variant. Not going to get the COVID-19. Now all of a sudden, hey, you're vaccinated, but you still got to wear a mask and you still got to stand 6 feet. You can't go indoors. You got to do whatever. That's and they're like, wait, you flip-flop so many times, we can't trust you. That it's simple as that. The Louisiana people don't trust John Bel. They don't trust the government in a lot of what they're saying. So, like I said, this time, look, I'm one of them. I'm telling people, I'm not telling you not to wear a mask, but for me, I'm not wearing a mask. And like I go to where I work, majority where I work at, there's a little store where I get plate lunches and stuff like that for lunch. And I walked in there, everybody wearing masks, and they looked at me like I was an oddball. Like, wait, you're not? No, I'm not. I'm not wearing a mask because I saw a post the other day and it made a lot of sense. It showed a picture of some Hanes underwear. And it said, this cannot stop farts. And then they show a mask, but you think this is going to stop the Delta variant? Am I right, though? That's a good analogy, isn't it?
Yep.
You're right.
So it doesn't don't make sense. So, but yeah, we're seeing some pushback. A lot of people in Louisiana, they're saying they're not going to wear a mask. And this time around, I think the government's starting to realize we fooled them once, and we're not going to fool them a second time.
Yeah, I think we're seeing the same thing in some parts of North Carolina. So North Carolina is a lot like, it's fairly a lot like Louisiana. It's, a generally red state. However, I mean, this last election, it was deeply purple. You've got the Raleigh area growing quite a bit, which is very, very blue, like most of your other, urban centers. But the rest of the state is, there's a lot of pickup trucks and, a lot of Remington A70 Expresses hanging in the back window of those pickup trucks.
Y'all still got those over there?
Very conservative.
You still got those?
Heck yeah, man. That's the work. Hey, that's you see them, man. You see them every once in a while. They're not, there's not as common as they used to be, but that's in fact, I saw one yesterday. Guy had his A70 Remington Express and looked like his Brownie. I couldn't tell you which model it was. 308 hanging in the back window of his pickup truck, but you're starting to see a lot of folks that they're done with they're done with the mask. They're done with the government being told, or the government telling them what they can and can't do, while at the same time you've got pictures of and videos of Rashida Tlaib coming out where she's at a party dancing with no mask on. AOC's taking her mask off as soon as she thinks the cameras are off her. You've got Barack Obama's birthday party where they scaled it down from 700 to I think 500 no mask. We're talking, people are like, well, they're vaccinated, and stuff, and so it's okay. Well, which science are we going to believe? We've been told masks work. We've been told masks don't work. We've been told the vaccine so you won't get COVID. We know that you can get the COVID even with the vaccine, and you can give it to people. So it's to the point now to where, and it's been politicized so much to where you don't know what to believe, and everybody's just done with it. Especially for the folks that can't stay home because they have bills to pay.
Right.
I've got some family members who are very much they're on the left, and they have been, well, we need to shut everything down again and get this over. And it's like, okay, well, let me know when you're going to pay my bills. I'll go ahead and give you my my account and routing number, because I have bills to pay. I have kids that that they like to eat. They like to have AC in August in North Carolina. So I'm gonna need you to go ahead and take care of those for me, because nobody's gonna pay my bills. So, but so going back to the 2022 piece. So I think the Senate is probably our best bet. As far as Republicans to take back, I'm not sure on the House races. I'd have to go back and look. But there's 34 seats in the Senate that are up for re-election, and that are up for grabs in 2022. 14 of those are Democrats. 20 of those are held by Republicans. I think that I know the special runoff that they had in Georgia with Raphael Warnock, and I can't remember the other guy's name. I don't think Warnock wins in a regular election. I think the runoff, it was too close to the president. It's right on the heels of the presidential election, and folks were still going out in masses, and voting, and then whatever other
you also had drop boxes. You also had mail-in ballots where Georgia just went ahead and did a overhaul of all their voting system because of potential fraud. We're gonna say it like that, for YouTube won't flag y'all guys. But
we want to be flagged. It actually helps out with your viewership.
Okay.
Just letting you know, voter fraud, and China virus.
Well, I look at it like this though. I think let's look back at the 2020 election in Congress. Remember, Democrats were running around that, hey, we won these Senate seats, and we had one of the greatest elections because we got out Trump. We won these 2 Senate seats, but they failed to mention that not one incumbent Republican lost a race. All incumbent Republicans won, and we picked up multiple seats to where I think it's only like a 2 to 3 seat gap. So it's very slim majority. And the way that they're acting now, and this is the problem with the Democrats. If you throughout the years, when they're not in power, they look at the Republicans and say, "Oh, we're the minority. You have to work with us to get bills passed," because the American people are going to think of y'all as bullies, and that y'all don't want to help nobody, y'all don't want to work with nobody. But as we're seeing it right now, Chuck Schumer said the other day about the $3.5 trillion bill, we fixed it to where we don't have to have a Republican vote. Well, what about the minority and helping the small guy and getting their opinion? Oh, that's out the window now because we're in charge. And people are seeing that. And this is what I think about, like, let's say Joe Biden the other day. I said on my show a couple of weeks ago that Joe Biden made a statement saying, if y'all people don't go get the vaccination shot, y'all not as smart as I think y'all are. If you start reading between the lines, okay, what is opposite of smart? Dumb. You're telling your constituents, hey, if y'all don't do what we're telling y'all to do, y'all dumb. People, I don't know about y'all guys, but when I hear something like that and say, well, I'm kind of offended. I didn't vote for him, but American people put him in office. And he's calling his constituents dumb. People don't forget about that. And Nancy Pelosi is the same way. You know, she goes ahead and calls us dumb. She goes ahead and says the American people don't know what they're talking about. But that's why I think that the Congress, and it's traditional as well, that after the first 2 years of a president, normally the House and the Senate goes back to the opposite party. We're just going to have to wait and see what happens. That's why I think the House is our strongest suit right now. I think we could flip 2 or 3 seats, but we have to win every other seat that we've won back in 2020. And same thing in Georgia. I have my feelings about the Georgia election. It's kind of funny how they stopped counting votes at 11 o'clock and all of a sudden the Democrats are winning. I'm just saying, that's obvious. I've seen it on my TV, votes change. So I think this time around it's gonna probably be different in Georgia. I think Georgia's going to have one Republican and one Democrat senator in there. John Kennedy's going to win hands down. When they were thinking about him running for governor here in Louisiana, John Bel was crying that he wouldn't run for governor. John Kennedy, they wouldn't have had no other Republican run against him. The only reason he didn't run for governor is because Mitch McConnell asked him to stay in the Senate because they needed him, because we would have had the same problem as Georgia. We would have had 2 Senate races in the state of Louisiana, and it would have threw off everything in this last race. So that was a smart move by Mitch McConnell. Maybe one of the only ones he done this year, but it was smart. That was smart.
Yeah, I will be. I'll be watching Alaska. So Lisa Murkowski's seat is up for re-election in 2022. Having lived up there for a while on behest of Uncle Sam. I can tell you, I still talk to a lot of folks from Alaska who are kind of tied in up there, and Lisa Murkowski, her actions over the last, 2 years, especially, say probably the last 2.5 years, have been very unpopular with Alaskans, and they are super unhappy with her, and she's got a contender up there that is giving her some problems right now. So you've got the Lisa Murkowskis and the Susan Collins. I think Mitt Romney is safe. I don't think he's up for a re-election anyway. But those folks, especially the Murkowskis and stuff, you've got these governors coming up who are looking to run, potentially. And Kristi Noem, there was something saying that she may or may not be interested in running for office one day, and I would imagine she would try and do something like the Senate prior to maybe if she decided to do a presidential run later. So take a look at Alaska, keep an eye on that, because Murkowski, her days could be numbered, and that would be huge because she's always an unknown.
I hope they're numbered.
She's not,
because she's been a thorn in the GOP side for years. Because you didn't know what she was gonna do, and especially Alaska. We brag that we're the sportsman's paradise here in Louisiana. We love our guns, we love our God, we love everything about the woods, man. We fish, we hunt. We got the Chapala Basin right down the road from it, but Alaska is 10 times more than us if you think about it, because their weapons are just not for sportsmen or to go hunt for pleasure. A lot of these people, they hunt to eat. That's their living. They live in these rural areas or where there's no communication whatsoever, so they have to have their guns. And Lisa Murkowski coming from around there, it shocks me that she ain't more conservative than what she is now.
Yeah, it's surprising. Susan Collins is the same way, because you take a look at Maine, and you have folks who completely live off the grid, up in Maine as well. And so, not to get the 2022 election, but 2024. So, you said you would vote for Trump, if he ran it, if he was the nominee. Do you think Trump is going to throw his hat in the ring? And if so or if not, regardless, do you think it's a good idea?
Well, I get a lot of feedback from a lot of people that want Trump to run. Earlier this year, I would have told you no, Trump was not running for re-election. I thought that Trump would probably go ahead and help Ron DeSantis, probably team up with Ted Cruz, and there wouldn't be that much bickering like the last time in the GOP election. Unfortunately, Donald Trump has made some comments to Candace Owens. He has went on interviews and hinted that he is going to run. So that was my prediction going wrong. Should he run? No, I don't think he should run. And a lot of people look at me weird when I say that because they're like, oh, well, Trump's the best one for it. I understand Trump would do a lot more for this country, but it's only 4 years. And if it happens like last time with Paul Ryan and we get some rhinos in there that stop him, everything that Trump's going to do, they're going to stop him for the first 2 years regardless, and then the Democrats are going to come back into play. Trump is a controversial figure. This is what I think Trump should do. I think Trump should go ahead and stand behind Ron DeSantis. I think Ron DeSantis would make a hell of a president. He's doing a hell of a job in Florida as being governor. I think he should team up with somebody like Ted Cruz or Rand Paul, a good conservative, to get them extra votes that he needs. And he should back up the candidates for the presidency instead of going up against them and each beating up each other like they did last time. Because Donald Trump attacked Ted Cruz, he attacked Marco Rubio, he did and whatever to do to get to win. Now it was a good strategy, and like I said, if he's the candidate, I would vote for him again. But I think it should be Ron DeSantis that should run, and he came in second at the last CPAC poll. And it was a landslide. I think Trump got like 60-70% of the vote at CPAC, but for conservatives. But a lot of people like Ron DeSantis. And like I said, look, y'all not the only ones that I tell this to. I've told my good friend Scott Ford from Indiana the same thing, and he said he'd vote for Trump. And when I made the statements, we disagree on that area, but. And a lot of conservatives looked at me weird, like, wait, you don't want Trump to run? I never said that. If he runs, I'll vote for him. But at the same time, is it a good idea? No, I don't think it's a good idea. I think Trump should be an advisor to the next GOP president.
Hey, so on that, yeah, Isaac, I completely agree. I think, really to get the moderates that voted for. They didn't necessarily vote for Biden for his policies, in 2020. They voted against Trump just because they didn't like Trump. I think to get those folks back over to the Republican side and voting for a Republican candidate, I think that it has to be a DeSantis, it has to be, maybe, even a Greg Abbott from Texas. It has to be, if Trump runs, those folks are going to go back over to, the blue side, and they're going to vote Democrat again. And the Republicans are going to lose the 2024 election. We're going to have another 4 years of Biden, if Biden makes it that long. I don't know that Biden makes it another 2 years, to be honest. And then, we'll have a Kamala and Pelosi or whoever. But as far as, folks who are running, as a native Floridian, I love Ron DeSantis. I love what he's done. But I think, as far as you start talking, okay, well, running mates, for a DeSantis, and I think that running mate field, I think it's wide open. I think it could be an Abbott. I think it could be a Tim Scott, from South Carolina. I think it could be a Nikki Haley. I think it could be Kristi Noem from South Dakota. I think that I think the VP field in 2024 for the Republicans, I think, is wide open. And as long as DeSantis doesn't do anything super crazy, like kill a bunch of elderly people in nursing homes with COVID, like Cuomo did, or go around and killing grannies and smacking fannies, like Cuomo did, I think DeSantis, is going to be it. I think, Rogers or Luke's absolutely right. I think, Trump can play a kingmaker on this if he's smart. I think if he runs, he splits the ticket, and the Republicans lose again. So I think
Such a Debbie Downer, man.
That.
Such a Debbie Downer. That dude ain't gonna run. I'm gonna put my money. I'm putting my money where my mouth is right now. I'm putting it out there. There's no way that dude runs. I think there's gonna be a lot of rhetoric between here and there, but I think at the end of the day, when you look at his age, and you have to look at what he's doing now versus when you're the president. Like, wow, kind of like what you said that when Barry, if I could sit in my pajamas and talk. I mean, Trump can do that, and so I think he's smart enough to see, I believe, and especially when you get to that age, that, hey, you know what? I can kind of just sit back here. I can back who I want to. Somebody's got similar policies, this and that. And I do agree with you that, you take a DeSantis, he's obviously got a good shot. And it's funny because they are already working on Noam, where there have been some articles coming out saying, well, hey, she's not as conservative as what you think she is. They're saying a lot of the stuff that's going on up in South Dakota, they're like, hey, that's due to the Republican legislature. If it was up to her, she would have been a lot farther left. So it makes you wonder. I don't think that's a Democrat thing. I think that's a Republican thing coming out very early to kind of prep that battlefield.
Well, the reason they're doing it, they want another Mike Pence in there. You got to realize Mike Pence ran as a conservative, and he did some great things. I think it's in Indiana. He was a governor, but conservative state. You get a lot of legislation to do, and I don't know why they always do this. A lot of Republicans and a lot of well, especially the GOP. Well, we can have a real good, strong conservative on the right side, but let's put a moderate Republican to get them votes. And unfortunately, the presidency and everything, a lot of elections, it's not about their policies, it's about how popular they are. And that's why I say I think Trump would run, because of Trump's pride and popularity. He said, I know I'm popular, so I'll probably get the nominee. But just to show the world that I really didn't lose the last election, I'm going to run again and be the hot dog again. It's more of a pride issue for Donald Trump, because Donald Trump don't like losing. But every Democrat, every Republican does this. They go ahead and every election, let's go ahead and put the far-right conservative and put a moderate Republican to get them Democrats that are not sure. But like you said, if Trump would run, it messes it all up, because them ones that didn't like him because of the mean tweets and are thinking about voting Republican right now won't vote Republican. Oh, Donald Trump's running. We're gonna get the mean tweets. We're gonna get the insults. We're gonna get all the. So we're gonna vote for Kamala Harris or Joe Biden. Because Roger, you said that you don't see Joe Biden running, lasting another 2 years. That I'm going to give credit to where credit due. The great late Rush Limbaugh gave a prediction. He said the way that it would give Kamala Harris 3 terms, because you got to realize that you can only serve 2 terms. If Joe Biden goes ahead and stays in there for at least 2 years, resigns, that is still, and she takes over, that's still considered Joe Biden's term, so she can run again 2 times. So she would have a total of 10 years in the White House, possibly. So there's more ways to skin a cat than one. I'm just saying.
No, absolutely. And you know what? It's funny because when you talked about, and I know it's been a controversial issue, and obviously YouTube bans people or this and that, but there are still some holdovers from the last presidential election. Like, and here in Arizona, we got this big audit thing going, and and I'm not even going to touch on that. So that's an episode by itself. I think the one
I've been following, by the way. I'm just letting you know.
Yeah, dude, it's crazy out here. But it's like literally they have subpoenas like, we're not going to respond to it.
Right.
It's like you get to choose. I don't care what side of the house you're on. It's like you don't get to choose what subpoenas you respond to. I mean, you kind of, and then it's funny because I forget which state it was. Oh, it was Texas when they were. He was going to give the arrest order. They took it to court, and then the judge basically came back and said, "Well, this is clearly political, so no." And it's like, wait a minute, they're politicians. That's what they do. Of course it's political. It makes no sense. But the one that sticks out in my mind that I haven't heard anything about was Pennsylvania, where the judge came in, not the legislature, and said, okay, I am going to change election law. I'm not interpreting your election law. I'm actually going to change it. And that, to me, is a Supreme Court issue. And if I'm on the right side of the aisle, I'm wondering, like, hey, man, why are we not pushing that? And this is not to go back and rehash 2020. We're not trying to go back and change it and this and that. I want to know, so are you telling me that a state judge without the legislature can go change the state voting law to whatever you want? Well, and I think that's to me it's not a whether it's a voter integrity thing. It's like those are serious, outstanding issues.
Right, and then you heard what the Texas Supreme Court said that, well, you cannot go on them lines. It is they have the right in Texas to go ahead and issue these arrest warrants, which they did, I believe, last night at the time of this recording. So it was fair, but you know, Roger, if you look at the original intent of the Constitution, the lawmakers are the Congress, the Senate, and the President. The judges are only supposed to interpret law, not to make law. And they're going against the Constitution right there. But let's go back to Pennsylvania for a second, though. There was a voting bill, a voting lawsuit back in 2020. It wasn't even Trump. It was I think a senator or a congressman or something took it up. The judge told him, "Look, on merit, you probably won this case." So what they did was they didn't go on standing; they went on merit. When that judge went ahead and said that, the Attorney General of Pennsylvania went to the Pennsylvania Supreme Court and said, "You know, we got to go ahead and latch this because it's something past. It wasn't present, or all kind of legal stuff like that." And when they did that, the Supreme Court of Pennsylvania said, "Nope, they can't do it. We're going to put latches on it. You can't even hear it." So they blocked it. When they went to the Supreme Court said, "Well, that guy didn't have standing to begin with, and we're not going to override the Pennsylvania Supreme Court." If you go on standing, you can always find a reason why I can go sue Joe Blow down the street, and the judge can tell me you don't have standing, but on merit I have all the standing I need. But they took every election law, and these judges, how they do, well, you don't have standing. They never went on merit. They never went on Constitution, which that's wrong. The Supreme Court did the same thing with all the lawsuits that went out for the 2020 election. Oh, they don't have standing. You're telling me all these lawsuits that somebody did not have standing? I think even citizens went ahead and sued, and they said, well, the citizens don't have standings. The citizens are voting. They have more standing than anybody. We the people in the Constitution.
Well, you know what? I'll tell you what. We've talked about some pretty important stuff, but I'm going to ask the most important question of the Cajun conservative. One we haven't asked yet. So let me ask you this, man. Let me ask you this, Isaac. Important question. Because the audience wants to know.
Okay.
And we're going to see if you real Cajun or not.
All right.
So what does and does not go in a true gumbo? Inquiring minds want to know.
You cannot put a tomato in a gumbo. You cannot put a tomato. I remember one time looking on Facebook, and they had this New Orleans restaurant, and you know this is not from Louisiana. They had tomatoes. I think they even had cucumbers and stuff. I'm like, no, that's not a gumbo. There is two type of gumbos here in Cajun country. There's the chicken and sausage gumbo. You can also put okra in there. That okra is real good in a gumbo. So you go ahead and you have your chicken and your sausage, you cook your roux up, you have rice, a good potato salad on the side of it. That is the best gumbo you can have. But because we live in Cajun country and we are on the side of the Chaffalaya Basin, we upgraded the gumbo a little bit. We call it the seafood gumbo. We will put crawfish, crab, shrimp, I haven't seen fish in a gumbo yet, but if it would happen, I'll be pretty tight. But that seafood gumbo with okra in it, oh, dude, as the Cajun company says, slap your mama, bro. That is some of the best eating that you can have. What you get in New Orleans, that's not a gumbo. I'm just letting you know. If y'all guys ever come down to Louisiana, give me a shout out, and I'm gonna talk to my grandmother that's as Cajun as could be, and I'm gonna tell her, come to the house, I'll buy everything for y'all, and y'all gonna be like, no, what they do. There's no way a gumbo's made like that. And Cajun's top gumbo, man.
I'm going to go ahead and one-up you because I've had truly authentic Louisiana food because we got a Popeyes down the street here, and I get the spicy chicken sandwich at least once every weekend.
I'm gonna be honest with you, Roger. That is sinful. You go into a Popeyes and get a chicken sandwich. Go to Chick-fil-A.
Now, I will tell you this, though. Here's a little known fact. So, I actually went to college at LSU in Baton Rouge. So,
really?
I did have my fair share of legitimate, Louisiana food. Now, it's funny because you mentioned Slidell, and that used to be my old stomping grounds when I was a younger man. But
so
anyway,
you're talking about Cajun food, though. I got a question. Have you ever tasted a good jambalaya?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
man, jumbo-
homemade always, right?
Yes.
Homemade always.
Yes, always. That's the best jambalaya. Now look, they upped it since I don't know how long you've been out of Louisiana, but they upped it a little bit. They made a pastalaya. They take these little elbow noodles and they make it just like a jambalaya. Some use spaghetti noodles. And bro, when I first saw it, I'm like, nah, this can't be good. Roger, when I ate that, my brother, I was like, oh, I didn't know they could fix jambalaya any better. But a pastalaya is off the chart.
So me and Josh are writing this down right now. So we're like, yeah, we're gonna gurgle
Yeah.
pastalaya.
You're not helping my quest of dropping like 15 pounds.
It's hard to lose weight in Louisiana, man. Look at me.
Dude,
We got our buddy that he went on leave, right? He goes down there and he'd come back from deployment and he was all fit and everything. He goes home to Louisiana, comes back, put on like 15, 20 pounds. It's like, and it wasn't muscle.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you see, look, I'm going to give you
It's,
some insight. We have Lent here, and I'm not Roman Catholic, but we're surrounded by Roman Catholics and Catholic churches all over. And I was hearing from a Catholic friend of mine one day, and he said, "Look," he said, "Man," he said, "it's hard to have Lent in Louisiana." He said because normally Lent is suffering. You know, you gotta eat seafood and all that. He said in Louisiana we master seafood, man. We got fish jumbo, we got fish coubillon, we got fried fish. We make fish in a brown or red gravy. We fry everything, man. Shrimp, dude. My father-in-law shrimps for a living, and when he brings them big jumbo shrimps home, man, we put that on the grill. We put that on shish kebabs, man. We eat good down here, man. We don't suffer. That's a blessing for Lent.
So I think we haven't mentioned it yet, but I think my favorite food down there, and I've got a lot, is boudin.
Oh,
Man, that I can feel myself, and I can literally feel myself getting fatter as I eat it. But I can't help myself because I have no self-control. It is ridiculously good. So every time I swing by, come through Louisiana, like I got to stop and have boudin somewhere.
We do boudin a little different. Me and my family. I played softball for 5 years at a local park here, a little slow pitch softball team. And I have a good friend of mine, call him brother. We always talk and we team up every so often. He invited us to his house one day, and we have this. He has a campfire like with the bricks and everything, and he has where you can like open fire. And he says, "Yeah, you want some boudin?" I'm thinking, the regular boudin that you ball and you eat it after. He said, "No, we do it different here." He took that boudin. It was a small lynx. Put it on the open fire. Put barbecue sauce in there, and he grilled it over that open fire. Bruh, I tell you, we buy boudin every so often now, and that's all we do. We go ahead and we fix it like that, and that would top any boudin you tried lately.
I love it. Absolutely love it. Last time I was coming through Louisiana was last December, and I stopped in Lafayette, saw a good buddy of mine, and he scrambled. He put some in an omelet for me. Had a boudin omelet.
I never ate that, man. That sounds
dude,
good.
It was that with some peppers. It was ridiculously good. It was absolutely ridiculously good.
Boudin. You know what a kolache is, right? A ham cheese kolache is a
no.
Well, you put bread and stuff. I see Luke right there. It's like, oh yeah, I know what that. Yeah, I know what that is. It's like in a biscuit, or you could say, and they put ham, cheese, sausage in there. It's real good. They sell them a lot. Every bakery has them. Well, I was introduced to the boudin kolache, where they take the stuffing of a boudin and they put in there, and they oh, bruh, Luke, I know you're hurting right now, man, just thinking about that. So yeah, man.
Yeah.
So yeah, like I said, we're creative with our food, man. It's not just hey, steak and potatoes, man. We have to something unique with that steak and potatoes. If it's putting hot sauce or something, we have to do something unique with that.
Yeah. So okay, last question.
All right.
Louisiana hot sauce or Cajun Chef? Which one?
Man, to be honest with you, I don't use hot sauce too much. We usually use Tony Sassery's seasoning. We just spread it on there. But if I have to pick a hot sauce, I wouldn't even pick those two. I would go ahead and pick Tabasco sauce.
Tabasco.
Tabasco sauce
All
is
right.
made. Tabasco sauce is made in Avery Island, like an hour away from my house. So
Yep.
that is some of the they say that's some of the greatest hot sauce. I've tried a little taste of it, but as for hot sauce, I don't soak my food down in hot sauce. Like I said, if I need some more seasoning, a little more kick to it, I'll go ahead and put Tony Sasseries on there. That's some good seasoning.
Tony Sasseries. I have to check it out. All right, so I think that's going to do us for this episode. Real quick, Isaac. So definitely appreciate you coming on. When we close this out, don't go anywhere. We still want to chat with you for a few more minutes. But real quick, tell everybody where they can find the Cajun Conservative and where they can find Brothers in Searching podcast at.
Will do. But before I do that, I hope y'all give me a little liberty right here. I want to go ahead and tell y'all, thank y'all for y'all service. I never served in the military, but I have the utmost respect for every man and woman that has served in our U.S. Army, U.S. Marines, U.S. Navy, every branch of the military. I respect y'all guys. I want to thank y'all for y'all service. And I guess I'm speaking out as your audience because I listen to y'all show every time a new one comes out. And I'm speaking for your audience and for my audience, for everyone that's listening. Thank y'all for y'all service in our military. God has blessed y'all with a great gift to serve. Because, like I said, I never felt that call to go, but y'all have. And I just want to thank y'all for what y'all did for this country and still do for this country.
Thanks. Thank you. It was an honor for sure. Real quick, yeah, man. Where where can folks find you at in both of your podcasts?
You can find Brothers Just Searching and the Cajun Conservative on Facebook at the Cajun Conservative Show or Brothers Just Searching on Facebook. We go ahead and release all new episodes there. I also release every platform that we have on both podcasts. We're on Apple, Google, and Spotify. We drop one. The Cajun Conservative drops every Monday. We're working on a video side of it. With my time and everything, my editor already does Brothers Just Searching. He takes a whole week to do so put another show on him. It'll be kind of hard, but we're working on that for video. But everything's audio right now. Planning on having y'all guys on soon. We're gonna have to talk about that as well. But love to get y'all guys on the Cajun Conservative. But Brothers Just Searching, we're on YouTube as well. We drop audio and visual every Wednesday morning. And just, God has used both these podcasts to reach souls, to reach people. I've met y'all guys. I met tons of people through this experience of podcasting, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. So, but y'all can find us there. If y'all want to email me, y'all can find me at the Cajun. Let me remember, the Cajun Conservative 5 at gmail.com or Brothers Just Searching Podcast at gmail.com. Those are our emails. You can send me a message on Facebook. I'll go ahead and reach back with y'all guys.
All right, everybody heard that. Get over there, check them out, smash that subscribe button, and show Isaac some love. Isaac, we really sincerely appreciate you having on. We absolutely want to have you back.
Anytime.
We need to make this we definitely need to make this a regular thing, and I tell you what, I will absolutely take you up on your offer. Next time I roll through Louisiana, I'm going to hit you up because man, I'm a fat kid and I love my food. So
and just think about it like this, and I say this all the time on the podcast. I'm just showing the world that Cajuns do have intelligence. We're not Bobby Boucher all the time.
Yep. I was wondering if we were going to get through one podcast with the Cajun Conservative without Bobby Boucher coming up. No,
not a chance.
I love it. All right, hey everybody. Also, I failed to mention this at the beginning. Hopefully, Carlton Zeus doesn't pull his music from our intro. So, intro music, Alpha Child. Get over and check Carlton Zeus out at Apple Music or www.carltonzeus.com. And until then, all you canteeners, keep your canteen cups full with some good whiskey and keep them tightly secured.